Right, let's see how we get on today. I've been looking at some ideas for some World War I Remembrance Day art. I'm keeping it really simple, so we're just going to be looking at using a little bit of chalk, a little bit of charcoal, and a little bit of red for the pastels, and that's pretty much it. You really do need to know how to do your stickmen figures for this one, so if you're not sure, go back and look at the other videos and practice. Get it on scrap paper, make sure you put a bit of time and effort in, and when you're comfortable with those, then you can move on to this. Right, starting with a piece of chalk. You want a piece where you've got a smoother side, so it's going to rub on quite smoothly. And when you do it, you find a little bit of scrap up here somewhere. Any scraps? There we go. Right, you want a line like that, nice and soft. You don't want to be doing any drawing on the edges, so it's not solid lines, it's the soft line that you get from the flat of the piece of the chalk. So let's get rid of one of these. Right. And I'll do, in fact I'll make it up as I go along. So I'm going to just drop in a bit of a landscape. And what you'll notice is I'm getting some slightly hard lines, and what I'll do is I'll just press down that little bit harder to get that little bit of extra texture in there. So it's a fairly flattish sort of landscape, not too flat, but flattish. And then what I don't want to do is go too far to the edges, so I'm just going to go like that. Don't make it too uniform either, you want it to look a little bit natural, inconsistent. And that's gone a bit too close to the edge, but it doesn't matter too much, I'll just wipe it away with my finger. Right, next thing, using a little bit of the black, the charcoal. If you've got black pastels, you can use those as well. Personally, I just prefer using charcoal. There we go. And as I say, I've not really planned this out. This is just how the lines have developed. And all I'm doing is I'm just adding some darker bits. Can you see how that's starting to look like a landscape? I've not thought about it, it just happens naturally. And I'm going to add a little bit of texture by putting in a few lines for grass. Don't make it too uniform. So we don't want, I'll do it with the white on this just so you can see it. You don't want lines like that for your grass. What you're looking for is more of a random sort of variation in line and angles that it's coming up at. Some thicker, some thinner. And as you go off in the distance, it will just be patches. That's all I'm going to do for that bit there. And then I'm going to go back with the white and add a few extra little bits. There we are. That's my general landscape. They've got a few squarish edges from the chalk, so I'm just going to soften those off and round off my edges a little bit better. There we go. As you can see, I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing, it just happens, and if you find a shape, just work with it. I'm going to put in a simple soldier for this one, so this is just stickmen. I don't want him dead centre because the composition doesn't look very good. I'm going to pull him to one side, and I'm going to have him, I think I'm going to pull him over to this side, have him looking across this way. And so I'm just going to start with the head. And all I'm doing is the simple bare bones of the figure. Don't try and draw the outline of a soldier, just get the figure and then we'll build it up afterwards. Leave a little gap for where the neck would be. Bit of a trapezium for the body. Semicircle for the hips. Go back to the video if you're not sure of your dimensions. The head just fits inside the body. Then I've got my legs coming down. You don't want your legs dropping down from the centre. You've got to have them coming out just from the side. And then halfway down the legs you'll have your knee. Your feet will be there. Don't worry if you've got grass there, we can just go over the top of it. And if you look, your legs are half of your body. You've got to get the proportions right. If you don't get the proportions, it just doesn't work. And then putting my arms, can you see they're just sticks at the moment? There's no detail there at all. In fact, I'm going to do this as somebody with a child, just because I think it looks nice. So I'm going to have the arm resting on the child. When you do a child, the proportions are different. The head of a child is roughly the same size as that of the adult, but it's the other proportions that look different. And put a little skirt on, that's all it is. So it's a trapezium there, and then I'm just doing straight into the skirt for the body, and you're not going to see any legs. And then the arm will just be there. There's the arm resting on the shoulder. That will do for that. Right, now I'm going to turn this person into, I'll turn them into a soldier. Right, so start filling in a few details. So go back over, wrinkle up the arms a bit so it looks like there's some fabric over the top. There'll be a belt around the middle, so that will still go in a little bit, and it will come out where the, I think they're called blouses, where the army blouse would come out. And for the legs, make them a little bit thicker, but then they're actually quite thin at the bottom because they used to wear what were called puttees, and they were strips of fabric that would be wrapped round and round and round to keep all the mud from getting into the trousers, into the shoes, and to protect the trousers. So that will do for that. Now, to get the helmet, all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an ellipse, like so. And then where the head is, just make it a little bit bigger, so the head would fit inside of it. And then you probably have some sort of a backpack. No, you're not going to see any detail. Don't draw faces, don't draw anything like that. It's all in silhouette. I don't want that there, that's a bit too much, never mind. Any mistakes, I can always fix them with a bit more chalk and a bit more charcoal. How am I going to finish this off? I'm just going to put a cross in, I think. I'll do a cross here. A few more bits of grass. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use my little bit of, let me just finish that helmet off. That's not quite the right angle, is it? There we go. And use a little bit of chalk just to catch the light. So if I imagine the light's coming in from this direction, try and find a sharpish edge to your chalk. So you've got a nice line you can draw, and I'm just going to catch the light on a few of the edges. Don't overdraw it, you don't need to have too much. And I'll do the same on the girl here as well. Just mark off where those putties would be. You don't need to draw in too much detail. Your brain is going to be filling in all the gaps anyway. Make this a bit too much. Just fade it out a little bit. And I'll do the same on here. Just makes the cross stand out a little bit more. And then to finish off, that's all that was needed in terms of the detail. To finish off, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a dash of red. Don't try and draw the flowers, you don't need to draw them. Our poppies can just be represented like this. Now, as you're getting closer, which is going to be the bottom of the picture, they'll need to be that little bit bigger, and they'll be slightly more in focus. So I'm pressing down a little bit harder, and I'm maybe adding a few extra bits. In the distance, you don't need much at all. Okay,